Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again for another movie review. This is getting towards the end of the year, but we got one final superhero film before the year rounds out, and I'm talking about Kraven the Hunter. This is another one of Sony's, I would say, Spider-Man villain Rose Gallery-esque films, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson as the leading role of Kraven the Hunter. And yes, Aaron Taylor Johnson has played Kick-Ass in the past, and he's also played Quicksilver, but now he is the leading man as Kraven Hunter. Also starring Russell Crowe, Ariana DeBose, who else is it? Levi Miller, Christopher Abbott, Alessandro's Novello. Interesting thing about Alessandro, I remember him from back in the day in Face Off. Like I was a big fan of him back in the day, and he's actually playing the role of a certain big villain, no pun intended, that's a little gray. But I'm not gonna tackle this review by myself. I'm gonna bring in Jedi Mike 7. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm glad. This is one second to last superhero property that's coming out to this year, or at least on the Marvel side. But hopefully, and after a report today, taping this recording, this might be the last Sony Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man for a while. So yeah, only time will tell. See how if they actually learn from their choices and stuff. And yeah, I'm
Yeah,
yeah.
so one of the things that is a first for these kind of Sony films is this is their first attempt at a rated R feature. One of the things that people always wanted was to have Venom to be rated R. Even Morbius, a lot of people wanted it to actually be rated R, but unfortunately, they were not. They were very PG-13. So it's kind of like when you think about Kraven the Hunter, a lot of times you don't think of Kraven the Hunter by himself. You think of him with his beloved Calypso, and you think about him with Spider-Man. That's it. So it was more so for me going into this. I was like, what is this going to really be about? What I can kind of give you guys a background is that this is his humble beginnings. This is showing who his family is, what is his lineage, how he got his powers, and then also who he's supposed to be. Now, I do have some negatives in terms of how this could have been interpreted. And I think this is, they could have capitalized, in my opinion, on the rated R. I think they kind of dialed it back outside of the violence, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But as far as the actual film is concerned, again, I was there for the violence and the senseless entertainment. And I'll say that there were certain moments that were pretty entertaining. Some tongue-in-cheek like comments from certain characters and certain actors that are really good and seasoned, so they can kind of pull off a line delivery off even if the script isn't working. But I do think that as far as the goriness and some of the deaths, they did a really good job. I mean, I don't think that any death scene in this one was bad. I think it was actually done really creatively. I was actually surprised they even did it in this way. I think that the question that's going to be on your mind every time that you see Kraven, and again, I want you to let me know, Mike, how you thought about the action as far as even the gore. But I will add the sentiment when you're seeing Kraven maneuvering around with agility, your mind is going to go to Spider-Man. Again, the whole point of Kraven as a character, you have him to hunt something and hunt someone. When you have somebody that's so OP, you need that counterbalance. And then throughout most of this film, a larger part of the time is either from a flashback or storytelling as opposed to us seeing him going up against a real competition. But when he's on it, when he's fighting, when he's killing, you enjoy it. But what did you think about the violence and the gore of this film?
Yeah, I think I can think of maybe three handful scenes where the violence and stuff actually was good in terms of like, oh yeah, this is actually entertaining. But you mentioned it, you can definitely sense they dialed it back, and I don't know why, because that was their biggest selling point
Mm-hmm.
with this film, and also especially when we get to the villain of the movie with Rhino, doing a very interesting way of like, okay, how does a Rhino versus Kraven fight look like, right? But in terms of maneuvers and everything, again, if you played Spider-Man 2 Insomniac, Yeah, you already know how this is gonna go, right? But again, even him climbing up walls, like even then, like it's literally your first mind is going to Spider-Man, but also him running. That also how fast he's going makes you remind of Quicksilver. I mean, literally for him, his same runs is like, oh yeah, he Quicksilver trained him for the running in this movie. Um, like literally. But again, like some of the action scene, like the combat, like fight scenes, I like thought was good. I thought I just wanted more of it. Like again, just like let it be. But then even then, some of those scenes actually went to the comedy aspect of his like intimidation factor, right? Him showing up in an office and already have one dude dead already before the next person he's gonna kill walks in, right? Also in terms of setting up your prey and able to hunt and all that stuff like that, right? Using skills of like sense, hearing, and all that stuff, right? And so a point where instead of a person who was trained to actually listen to this is now just a basic instinct because he's enhanced in some form or fashion. Which will, again, spoiler free. But yeah, it's Lily poses climbing up walls. Spider-Man. Bro, the only thing I was missing, like, oh wait, I hope he swings. Like, what? But yeah, like literally, I literally in the theater, I was just like, he jumping, fighting. I was like, oh, and he jumping like a tall leaping building. I was like,
Yeah, it's again. I really didn't have too much of an issue with that because I can imagine, Spider-Man there with him. Like if Spider-Man was coming up against him with webs, like how would he maneuver around? It'd be kind of like if Black Cat was in a movie by herself, she'd be maneuvering around kind of in the same way. So I didn't have too much of an issue with that. It was more so that I really do feel like they held back so much, even though all the deaths were brutal and violent and gory, but I think what they could have capitalized on is the rated R rating, where something like Deadpool and Wolverine, they use the rated R rating to allow language and other mind-blowing things to happen where anything can go. This could have taken a darker turn as far as the story, because a lot of the things that are happening in this film are related to family and mobsters and like people that just are very abusive, whether it's psychologically or physically. And one of the big things about Kraven as a character is he is not a good guy. And the very beginning of this film, I think I was fine with. I just needed the road to lead me down a specific path. And I think that path could have been dripped with blood. Like one of the things I love about Daredevil, specifically the first 3 seasons, is his, revelation that, oh man, like how far is too far, right? And once you cross that line, what does that lead to? It leads to a character like Bullseye, right? And I kind of was like hoping for this to be like, okay, this man that has these innate abilities was gifted these abilities. And what are you really going to do with it? What does it mean to actually protect versus hunt? Like you're not hunting out of survival, like you're hunting for actual purpose. And I think that they could have grounded this film as far as the story to have him truly be tainted. By the end of the third act, there's no real revelation to me. There's no real accountability to me. And I think that if the film would have went down a certain path, there's a moment at the end of the film that I was hoping. There was a conversation that happens with Kraven's brother, and Kraven's brother is played by Fred Hitchenbigger. He was in Nickel Boys, and he also was in Gladiator. But he plays Kraven's brother in this one. If you know who Kraven's brother is, very important. But there's a conversation that happens about true accountability, and I was really hoping that the movie would have took a little bit of time for him to truly feel accountable for his actions. And he never does. And I think if the movie would have treated this more as a rated R, if you really go back to what's actually happened and what he's done, this could have been actually a really good story. But that's not what happens. The movie itself kind of filters around this boy that gets these abilities, trying to hone his abilities and justifies what he's doing for the sake of good or for the sake of, I don't even know, his own indignation of what is right or wrong versus his father, who played by Russell Crowe. So I want to talk about the story real quick. Again, the script and the dialogue is one thing, but what did you think about the story? Do you think that they could have gone to a different direction with this?
No, to that point, that conversation with his brother is like, to lead up to that, it's like you didn't even earn that. It's like to actually make it feel a sense of like feeling, because I was like, okay, talking about the gruesome nature of this film, like, with a scene that involves his brother, whereas like, okay, they could have made, he could become something else or something like that through, because of the consequences of his brother and his father. He's just like, he's actually the good one out of the both, out of the three of them, right? And this would be a simple uh kind of like story about family, where the firstborn son is almost a mere copy or something of the father, and then the secondary brother is like is actually something that's worse than both of them combined, right?
Right.
And that'd be something new that, we've seen stories like this before. But again, they could have gone this where like he's dropping bodies. There's one scene even when you see his origin of him as a youthful character, where it's like he's going ham on one character. But I'm like, that's his first kill, technically, of a person. But we just gloss over that because, what? Oh yeah, we gotta move the plot over. I'm like, what did that do to somebody? And to a kid that, when he could have taken a kill for something, he didn't. But it's like, no, you're killing somebody, and then you're just going again and again and again. And it's like, and that's something that is real in people, where it's like, hey, I might not be a bad person in terms of my heart, but like I do have a something in me, a nature about me, whether that might be from who my father is or whatever, or something that I might unfortunately like. I like to kill, I like to hunt, and I can't reject that. Right. So to a point that has become an addiction. Like with Kraven, like even in the Spider-Man, keep going back to like Spider-Man 2 Somniac, they go into like Kraven, with his family, like even to a point that his kids are like second thoughts to him, because like, wait, who the strongest prevails and stuff, even after his death in the game, right? They're like, who's gonna, it doesn't matter. Like this is about me getting the hunt. I don't care about my family, my children. I care about getting the hunt, getting the next kill, right? That's and that was hinted at and mentioned in that conversation at the end of the movie, so it's just like, wait, that's the plot that's more interesting to get into, to actually make like, hey, okay, are we just making an anti-hero / activist for animal rights, or are we actually making a potential Spider-Man villain to be, right? Like, so that's the thing. I feel like they missed the ball in this, and it has nothing to do also with Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance. I think he gave his all in this. I think he gave physicality, but even comedic chops too. It's like, yes, I actually would want to see Aaron Taylor Johnson again as Kraven. I think again, I like it. I think that he felt suited to be it and everything, and I felt he enjoyed this role. But the same time, I think the story surrounding this character could have been so much better to deliver with the way he was giving his performance in this and stuff. But yeah, it is what it is. It really goes down to the foundation, which is the plot and the writing, and that's what fell short.
Yeah, and what I'll say is this: is that the actors that are in this film, I do think that they did the best with what they had. I think that whatever the script was, they gave it their all. The unfortunate thing is there's an actress in this film she is amazing, right? As an actress. And I feel like they undersold her and they didn't develop her as a character. I'm talking about Ariana DeBo's character, Calypso. One of the things, if you look at West Side Story, that makes her such a compelling character actor is her ability to use her eyes and her emotion and her physicality to make choices. And in this film, from the very beginning all the way to the end of the film, I don't feel as though, one, they've earned a friendship or a connection. I'm talking about her and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Not that they imply any kind of romantic relationship, but just a friendship or foundation. And I think the part of that is because she's so underdeveloped, I wouldn't even expect her to hold him accountable for his actions, because she was making some very choice conversations with him the first time they met that any other normal person wouldn't even have said. It just didn't make sense, because I was like, you have such a good actor here, and actually a really good character that's very cemented to Kraven, and you are not utilizing them. And again, if this was a true rated R film, one of the biggest things they would have went down is her lineage and who she does, what she can actually do. And of course there's gonna be stakes. Of course, like at the end of the movie, this should have told me, is she a good person or is she not? And I don't even know. And that's the same exact thing for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Now I'll go and move another direction, take another character. Christopher Abbott's character. Christopher Abbott is actually a really freaking good actor, and he was the most interesting character in this. And I knew nothing, zero about anything about him. Don't know what he really truly could do. Don't know a thing about him. If you know the comics, you might understand, but if you don't, you just like, who is this such and such character? And yet, the difference with him versus Ariana's character is that they give him moments to show his personality. He assesses things. He does things. He's not just charismatic. He's also kind of creepy. And at the same time, like you see his methodology. He actually felt like what, if you look at Luke Cage season 1, what Cottonmouth was versus Luke Cage's brother at the end. It's like apples and oranges. By the time we get to Rhino at the end of the film, I actually cared more about, Christopher Abbott's character. And that's not to say that when Rhino is Rhino, it wasn't interesting. Yeah, it was actually pretty freaking physically entertaining. The problem is that the ways that we get to him being Rhino are just weird because of the script. Like, he's charismatic enough to keep me entertained and laugh sometimes. But then when he's Rhino, like, I'm there. But everything in between, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know how we get here. But I will say, if you guys are interested, there are some hints at some very possible promising things connected or to come if you really do listen. That's all I'm going to say without spoiling anything. But unfortunately, again, with the character like Rhino, with the character like Calypso, they are not developed effectively because the scripting doesn't suffice for that. And a part of that, again, is if you had a real ground, and this is the weird thing, Russell Crowe played his character. If you let Russell Crowe really be what he was, I felt like he was acting like what his character should be. And all they needed to do is just have him be the kingpin of this movie. That's all they had to do. And they didn't. He had moments. When he had those moments, he was selling it. But you didn't see the ledger, the blood ledger that they could have allowed to show the ramifications of his actions to his family. And again, if we've seen anything like the Penguin family, if you really look at see what family, the reality of somebody that's a crime boss like that and what it does, they could have capitalized on this in this movie. It just wasn't, unfortunately, it wasn't in the best hands of writing and unfortunately with directing. But what was your take on some of the characters and some of the ones you did like or some of the ones you didn't?
No, you
also unfortunately affected by the story.
With the female character is almost as equivalent as, if you remember, Venom Let There Be Carnage with Naomi Harris's character as Shriek, right? And she apparently was a mutant in that movie, but they don't explain nothing about that. Whatever. She basically almost get a little bit more writing, like character development than that, but not as much again as a character. Again, and even the beginning of the movie, it's like, okay, if they even hint at some type of romantic relationship, they have done a horrible job with this even like the fact that these characters, even in how they meet in different points, in their lives and stuff like that, normal person would not act like this. And it's not about because this person might be crazy. No. This is just how basic writing is, just for how the person get to point A to point B. What and what life, what point or plot point in person A directs them into this person's life in point B. Blah blah. It's just common knowledge of how to write screenplay. But going to, like, again, as a comic person, yeah, I looked in on my phone after the movie came out, and one of the characters you mentioned, I was like, all right, yeah, he's a Spider-Man villain, but like, who do I know? Like, I mean, I was like, how did he get up here? Who's he? Like, what was his backstory? And then all of them, again, to the point of the Easter eggs things, everyone is all tied to another person that's not shown in this movie, but is referenced in a different location than where the movie takes place, but in a very popular location related to Spider-Man, right? And I'm like, that's why I'm like, that's the interesting thing. I'm like, wait, where are you getting all these abilities and stuff from? And all that stuff, right? But
yeah,
and that's the thing where I'm like, okay, if you thought you were gonna get a sequel, no. Give me if this was your last movie, yeah, give me at least a full fleshed out character. Don't even have to have their own origin story or anything like that, but at least give me some substance. But also, to credit to the actors, like, again, they're great performers, but only to give them lackluster characters to portray is almost does them a disservice as an actor. And then I can't get mad at them because they're doing their job, and they're just doing the best they can. But at the same time, you can't just do best what you can with some scraps. That's not even your job as an actor. What's the story that's surrounding your character? Not just the comics, but what's actually in this movie that plays into that. And then you don't have to be that overly complicated. Again, like even with Russell Crowe's character, and again, what type of revelation you might get at the end of the movie, it's like it was wasted, and to a point where it's like this could have been a more satisfying, conclusion in this movie, but yet you didn't do nothing to actually set up this character and this actual plot point to happen, because you basically waste all this time trying to, like, I guess, trying to give fan service or Easter eggs to comic book heads, like dangling keys to a 2-year-old, whatever, or other ones you trying to, like, well, we got parents to the rated R crowd and get it action and everything and stuff. But then at the other end, you're also like, let's just make a good story about a relationship between a father and his son, and him becoming his own and learning his abilities and stuff, and a relationship between these brothers, right? That's it. And this mafia family, and also unfortunately they don't hit none of those points at all.
yeah. I have a theory. Now, I remember hearing back a while back that there was a massive reshoots that were done for this film. There were reshoots done after the strike, and there were reshoots done before. And I'm gonna show you guys a picture of something, and I can tell you this picture is not in this film.
Yeah. Oh, there's more.
But the reason why I'm saying this is because one of the biggest pet peeves for Mike and one of our friends from Three Black Geeks, Eris, was there was a lot of ADR, random conversations that were happening. And my theory is that this was a completely different film. I think that they were, like they always are, have an unwillingness to truly commit. And I think that even though they were like, we'll leave in all the violence as far as like the violence of deaths, but we're going to tailor the story so it's a lot more digestible so other people can be able to see it. And we don't want it to be too dark. I can almost guarantee that, because even down to the relationship between Calypso and Kraven, it feels like there's a whole plot that I missed.
That's missing.
There's dialogues and scenes that I don't know if they were sensual in nature. I don't know if they were violent, but I can tell you that there's a lot of scenes that were just thrown away. And I also think that lots of Russell Crowe's character and some of the things that he's done in this film were cut out. And again, we one of our biggest complaints was that this could have been a true rated R attempt by Sony. And I think they reneged and reshot it in a way that it's not too violent. Because even this scene right here, I don't know who or what he's hunting, but he looks a lot more serious and a lot more rough than he was in the film. And that's not to say he ain't a beast, but the way that his character is personified by the end of the film does not give me a person that would be willing to hunt Peter Parker to the ends of the earth. I don't believe that this man would do something like that. I can never believe it. The groundwork is there. The framing of it is there. It's just the way that this film presents them. It's not it. I'm gonna have to take my jacket off.
Very now, seriously, you and the fact of like not only that, like it was a drinking game almost. You can make out of this movie how many times you can catch the ADR. Like that's one thing they took from Madam Web is the horrible ADR they have in this movie. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at it like, and I was like, it's like literally the theater, everybody at this point, we just gave up. We all decide like, oh. Like where these moments are happening, but like, yeah, there are scenes that were missing, even in the first trailer of Kraven. Like, so again, it's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. You see a young Kraven get attacked by a lion, right, in the first trailer, but then you hear the dialogue from Russell Crowe's character, "Leave him," right? That wherever you think that's like, oh, he left him for his son for dead. No, that doesn't happen. Like that doesn't happen. It's just, and I was like, and then it's like, oh, he's out the revenge story for the father that left him out for dead, and now he got these abilities from this lion and everything. Like, no, that does not like. And what it shows in this film is that there's a totally different story from what we see as the final product. But I don't know why. And again, I don't know who is it. Amy Pascal, is it something? I don't know who's making it. Avi Arad, I don't know.
Yep, that's it. You said the
name.
Man,
forget him.
You said
forget him.
You said the name. So I'm gonna show this real quick, and then we'll go and finish up our thoughts on this. So this is the sentiment that came up, and I think the director said this, but I don't know. The Deadline reports the delays of Kraven the Hunter were reshoots to sharpen characters and tighten the plot. Whenever you hear the word tighten, that means truncate it and shrink it down. Now, so here, check this out as far as the timeline with it. Timeline is this. 2 years, January 13th, 2023 to October 6th, 2023 to delay to February 14th, 2024 to August the 30th, 2024, and then the actor strike. So again, this movie has gone through a transformation in and of itself. Whoa, I think I just lost Mike. But I'm saying all this to say that there's definitely another movie here. This is crazy to say. I actually would love to see the official cut, the rated R cut to Kraven the Hunter, because I do think that there's a film here that's worth servicing. I think that the violence and the brutality of the kills were really well done. I think that the action was definitely really entertaining. I mean, when Kraven's doing what he's doing, like, I think it was definitely something that I would love to see, you know, somebody like a Venom or a Spider-Man going up against. I think that would actually be very entertaining. I think that Aaron Taylor Johnson, again, I haven't really spoken about him, but I think from a physicality standpoint, I think he's got it. Acting standpoint, I've seen him in this process. The man can act. He can absolutely do this. Yes, the actors are not the problem. The violence and the rated R rating wasn't even the problem. It was the way that it was scripted, and I think the way it was reshot. And again, with how I showed you guys as far as all these different reshoots from January 13th, 2023, all the way till now, there's absolutely been a lot of changes made, especially from a 2-year delay. But my closing thoughts on this, I would give it like a C- or a C. I think it's probably one of the better ones from the Sony Rogues Gallery films. I think the rated R rating saves it, and I think the talent in it saves it. But I think that the scripting is just kind of unserviceable, and I think that it diminishes me wanting to re-see this. I'd rather see the uncut version of what the heck this was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how many other ones were like this. I can only imagine when what's my man that played the role of Golem. Ah, God, Space on
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis, when he first got announced to be the director for the Venom movie that he directed, he said, "This is going to be a rated R film. I don't care what anybody says." And that movie ended up
Yeah.
the way that it ended up. And I can almost bet he shot something that was rated R, and it was just tooled all the way down. But so yeah, I'm a C minus, a C for me. But what are your closing thoughts, Mike, and rating for this?
Again, this is your point that you said that this is one of the better Sony Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man. But again, that's not saying much. I in my points where this is entertaining. I think out of all these movies that came out, right, of the non-Spider-Man movies, the only I think good solid film is the first Venom movie. That I would like, oh, I'll watch that again or whatever. Aside from that, Madam Web, Venom 2, Venom 3, Last Dance, Morbius, and then with this, again, it's malpractice at this point. It's malpractice. And again, I give this a C minus, and it's a shame when you know you have some good things in here, and when you have a good actor, you have to also have a good cast around you. Even with the fact that like that the Rhino, I thought the Rhino wasn't even bad in this movie. Like I thought that would be pretty cool. To have organic like cross genetic like Rhino, and it's like, man, what would like a Spider-Man fight this Rhino? What would that look like, right? But hey, I guess this is the best Rhino we've gotten live action, but that's not saying much. But anyway, yeah, I get that C minus though. But you guys be the judge of it. You go see the film and stuff. No end credit scenes. Don't get your hopes up. It's over.
Well, I'll say that the screening that we saw, which is press screening, there was no end credit scene. If there is one, we don't know. Only time I've seen Sony do something like this was first Venom. I don't remember. It was one. I like it might have been the first Venom because the first Venom had like a Spider-Verse end credit scene, which was crazy. But
no. It was a second. It was a second Venom 2 with him getting into the MCU. Then it was Morbius, where it was after No Way Home, and then that Vulture Michael Keaton got into the Venom Morbius universe and teaming up with Morbius to say, hey, we should get a team. We got to do something with Spider-Man, whatever. I don't know how I got here. Yeah, and then there was no end credit scene from Madam Web. There was no end credit scene for this film either.
Yeah, but the first Venom was the first time we saw the Spider-Verse trailer or some kind of first Spider-Verse, right?
No. At the end of the first Venom movie was teasing Carnage. At the end of the Venom 2 was Venom getting into an MCU for No Way Home for 2 seconds.
So what movie was it where it was like in another universe and then it brought up Spider-Verse? What movie was that? Anyway, doesn't matter. You guys, we've got our official reviews for this. We gave you a clear, concise breakdown without spoiling anything. Hopefully, you guys make up your own determination. Would you like to go and see it? I think it's worth going checking out. If anything else, from an entertainment standpoint, it's just the scripting is just not there. So if you know that going ahead of it, maybe you actually have a better time than we will. We're gonna go, Mike. Where can everybody find your content, man?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that socials at Jedi Mike 7. Also got reviews, interviews coming out this month. This month is packed, and I have my release schedule and everything, and you've been seeing videos posting consistently and stuff. And I got a ton more coming, so make sure your notification bell and stay tuned.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you guys, we're gonna go. Thank you guys so much for watching our official review for Kraven the Hunter. Until the next whatever verse that we're gonna get. Live long and prosper, everybody. We're gonna go. Peace, people.